Listen up, NFL fans. Are you ready? This is the podcast on all things NFL. The fantasy football players you should sit, ones you should start, guest speakers, game recaps, pre-game predictions, plus live call-ins from viewers, and so much more. Welcome to NFL Talk Live with your hosts, Reading Ravens 1 and Alex, a.k.a. PurpleSwordfish.
What's up everyone? Welcome back to week 2 of NFL Talk Live podcast. I'm your host, Reigning Ravens 1. This is my co-host, Alex, aka PurpleSwordfish. How's it going, my man?
I'm doing well, Reigning Ravens. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, man. Doing pretty well. Had a pretty rough week, but we made it full circle and we're back here with some more football. We got football coming tomorrow. That's always great. Thursday night football is going to be soon upon us. Do you remember the good old days when we used to have only football on Sundays, and if you were lucky, sometimes on Saturdays? And we slowly started getting Thursday night football maybe like once or twice or 3 times a year. And now we have it pretty much every week. What do you think about that? That's pretty cool.
Every week, I also realize that the players are not huge fans of it. But in general, as a football fan, it's really nice.
I enjoy it quite a bit. I know it sucks to be as a player playing on Thursday night, especially following a Sunday game. And I understand what it means to your body to have that break, a much-needed break. But it is what it is. We are back at it with some more football. The big elephant in the room, though. We know you're from Florida. How are you dealing with these hurricanes? Everything all right?
Everything's pretty good in my house, but what I will say is there's a lot of Central Floridians and Southern Floridians that really got rocked by Hurricane Irma. In addition to that, there's a lot of islands south of Florida that also dealt with the same to varying degrees. And, me, I was really lucky. I was out of power for a day, so I missed the Sunday night and the Monday night games, as far as relevance to this podcast. But in addition, it's pretty rough to do that. But very minor damage to the home, all stuff that I can fix personally. Didn't have to file an insurance claim like a lot of people I know here in Central Florida. And I'm back up and running, obviously, because I'm here. Whereas there's a lot of people who are not back up and running, don't have power, can't go to work, etc. So just want to give a quick shout out. If you have a couple extra bucks, please donate money to the Red Cross. There's a lot of people in Texas who still need it. There's a lot of people here in Florida who could definitely use that. So it's a great organization. I strongly believe in it. And if you got a couple extra bucks, every little bit helps.
Right. If we all donate a little bit, it comes out to being a lot. And like Alex said, those people down there really, really, really need our help right now. There's a lot of displaced families that need a place to stay. And they kind of feel like orphans in their own towns at this point, So let's get them back on their feet. Donate whatever you can. If you can do $1 or $2 here and there, that's perfect, But yeah, moving on to football, man. Week 1 was not kind to me. When we did our football picks, I knew that all my picks were correct, as I normally do, right? I'm the average football head. When I make my picks, that's the gospel. I cannot do no wrong. But boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I wrong. You want to get into it?
Let's get into it.
Okay. So, that's week 2. Let's go back to week 1. So there's quite a bit of surprises here. All right, I went 9-6 on my week 1 picks. I don't know, how'd you do?
I'm tallying it up right now.
Okay.
So there's 15 games.
15 games, yep, because your Buccaneers didn't play.
11-5. Or I'm sorry, 11-4.
11-4, okay. All right. So I'm 9-6. I didn't do too much worse than you. But I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong in assuming this, but the Thursday night game was the game that really confused both of us, apparently. We didn't know what we were talking about. We both went in on New England, didn't we?
We did.
And it was a 42-27 drubbing by the Kansas City Chiefs. Who saw that one coming?
Gotta say, probably the most shocking week 1 game out there, period.
Definitely. That tops the rest of them, I think. I'm looking through the rest of the Week 1 games. I don't really see much out there that surprises me. Aside from maybe the Rams killing the Colts, but, the Colts didn't have Andrew Luck. And, I know. How about the Ravens and Bengals game? Like, I totally thought, I didn't think that was going to be a shutout on any side, okay? But I totally thought that the Bengals had enough to go and win at home, their season opener, against my Ravens. And boy, was I wrong. And we'll get into what I think that caused the Bengals to fail that week. Because we're going to be talking about the possibility of them going 0-2. But before we do that, Alex, do you have any surprises that you find in your Week 1?
Yeah, I got a couple. I mean, obviously, okay. Kansas City really stepped up. I think most people. So, believe it or not, Vegas has substantially upgraded their odds as a Super Bowl champion this year. So, if you were looking to bet on the Kansas City Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, I hope you did that before this game, because they got substantially increased. They are a heavy favorite. I believe in some casinos they actually passed the Patriots as a favorite to win the Super Bowl, which I think might be a little bit of an overreaction. Carson Palmer from the Cardinals, his performance Week 1 was probably my biggest shocker. Mm-hmm. It just looked really bad. I made me kind of wonder, is this the beginning of the end of Carson Palmer's career as a highly effective NFL starting quarterback? Ravens were a pleasant surprise, I'm sure, much to the delight of your following reigning Ravens.
Yes.
And I got to say, I was happy to be wrong, too, because I know there's a lot of people who follow the show who are big Ravens fans, and I was very happy to see them elated to see a 20-0 shutout. But yeah, those three things, big surprises.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned overreactions. Week 1 is notorious for that. Everyone wants to play Monday morning quarterback, but no, especially Week 2 departing from Week 1, because you're like, okay, Week 1 games are over. I know exactly how the season's going. We don't know anything. Week 1 tells us absolutely nothing. If we can rely on history to be some kind of indicator of the future, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, if you're ready to move on to Week 2, I am. But before we do that, how about we get into our Week 1 fantasy? How about that real quick?
Well, I mean, I gotta win, but David Johnson, #1 overall pick on my team here.
Okay, let's take a look at your team real quick.
Yeah, dislocated wrist. It's a killer.
Let's see. He got you how many points? He got you 13 points, 23 rush yards, 1 fumble. But yeah, that injury, he's on IR. They're saying 2 to 3 months. That's rough. That's a big loss for you, man. Yeah, you won your Week 1 game. Let me see. Week 2, you're actually projected to play a close game against Stairway to Evans. Shout out to Keaton. He's 0-1. You both are. Oh, that's not him. Hold on. Where are you? You're Albatross, right? Yeah. Oh, you're projected to win by a pretty decent margin. And looks like you're starting Jameis Winston this week. All right, I see you.
Of course.
As for me, though, I want to say the shining star on my team, believe it or not, is right here. You see this 25 points out of his defense, and guess what defense I have? None other than the Baltimore Ravens, getting me 5 sacks, 4 interceptions, and 1 fumble. They were feasting out there that day. And it's a crazy week when Blair Walsh makes all of his kicks. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I won this week. I am 1-0. I almost doubled up on my opponent, actually. Volvo City Beatniks had no chance against me. This week, I'm going up against Rich, a.k.a. Silent, and I'm projected to win by approximately 20 points. I posted this on Twitter. I said, who should I start this week? Should I start Russell Wilson versus San Fran, or should I start Alex Smith versus the Eagles? And almost 3-1. People said go with Russell Wilson, so that's my guy. I'm starting Russell Wilson this week against a very lacking 49ers team. What do you think about that? Is that the move?
49ers defense didn't really show much last week, and in addition to that, they do not have a propensity when it comes to moving the ball. It's just they don't move the ball. It's Brian Hoyer, check down king. I mean,
he is.
Yeah, he won't make any mistakes, but he's not going to move the ball. He doesn't do anything dynamic.
Yep. You want to get into our week 2 picks, bro?
Let's get into week 2.
All right. Opening up the show is a Thursday night game between two teams that are not fun to watch, let's be honest. We got the Houston Texans and we got the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati getting shut out, as we mentioned earlier, last week to my Ravens, getting shut out at home on their home opener. The Houston Texans, not the greatest team. I want to call this game the battle of attrition because neither one of these teams look to be any good. Like I said, week 1 is not a prediction of anything to happen. They could suck week 1 and be amazing the rest of the week. But I'm going based off what I saw week 1. They don't look like a good team, either one. Both offenses look terrible. I want to say once Deshaun Watson got thrown the car keys, he looked pretty good. Unfortunately, the Texans have 4 players that are on defense that are on concussion protocol, with Brian Cushing also being out 10 weeks now for violating the league's performance-enhancing drug rule. That's rough. I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to overreact. People have a bad habit of overreacting based off week 1 performances. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals to win this, and I believe right now they're a 5-point favorite. So Bengals, I think, are going to get their first win. They have to make up for their week 1 performance, so I'm going Bengals.
Well, both teams need a rebound. Both teams looked really rough week 1. We found out that Tom Savage was apparently on the world's shortest leash. Did not expect to see Deshaun Watson coming in the game that soon. Definitely didn't even see him coming in the game week 1 unless they were blowing somebody out and it was garbage time. I got to say, I stick by what I said on Twitter this Sunday. I firmly believe that Deshaun Watson is not NFL ready. I have concerns that they're playing him too soon. I think him sitting and watching for a year would be very beneficial. He obviously has all the physical tools, but I do think him sitting for a year and watching would be very beneficial in terms of picking up the NFL speed and the mental aspect of the game. I think he's going to have a tough time against a very solid defense in that of the Bengals, and I look to see Andy Dalton rebound. I got the Bengals, and I have them covering the 5-point spread on this one. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Bengals all the way here.
All right, so we're both on the Bengals for Thursday night. Moving into now Sunday morning football for me. By the way, can I say how weird it is? Since I've been a Las Vegas resident now, this is my first time watching the NFL as a Las Vegas resident. That means for me, the games start at 10 a.m. I'm used to them starting at like noon, back when I was in Chicago, but they're starting at 10 a.m. It's crazy.
I don't know how you do it. I mean, to me, that's like all the games being played in Europe.
Exactly. So moving on, the surprising 0-1 Patriots. Remember what the predictions were before this game was? Patriots 16-0 again. I guess not. 0-1 New England Patriots taking on the 0-1 New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. Let's go back a second. That game that the Patriots played against the Chiefs on Thursday Night Football, that was a team of superlatives. The Chiefs were a team of superlatives. The Patriots were not. They played terrible. However, according to Vegas Insider, you may or may not know, the Patriots are a heavy, and I do mean heavy, Week 2 favorite to go into New Orleans and get a win. And it makes sense. The Saints didn't look that great playing against the Minnesota Vikings. The offense looked very lackluster, and I guess the same thing could be said about their defense. Yeah, New England's going to bounce back as they normally do. I think Tom Brady has some ridiculous stat right now, going like he rarely has back-to-back losses, and I don't think it's going to happen here. I'm going with the Patriots.
Yeah, I really don't have too much to say on this game. Both teams need a rebound, much like the last game that we just talked about. However, I think the Saints are in a very difficult situation right now. Losing Brandon Cooks, who I would expect to have a very big game against the Saints, by the way. But losing Brandon Cooks, I think, really did show week one. They didn't have this, knockdown, drag-out offense that I expected. It was very surprising. And they still don't have Willie Snead, if I'm not mistaken. So I have the Patriots bouncing back, getting a win here. Not much really to say about that one.
Okay. Sounds good. So we're both on the Bengals and Patriots. If we go up, we fall together too. I see how it is.
Yep.
Moving on. The Chicago Bears. I'm going to let you handle this one first, though, by the way. The Chicago Bears taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. It's Mike Glennon going back and facing his old team. What do you think? I want to hear, because if you guys didn't know, Alex, a.k.a. PurpleSwordfish, he is a huge Buccaneers fan. So let me know, what do you think about this game?
I think Mike Glennon has something to prove, but at the same time, I don't think that this is a revenge game on par with Adrian Peterson going back to, Minnesota with the Saints last week, where it was, hey, we don't want to pay you. Get out of here.
Right.
The Bucs wanted to pay Glennon. They wanted to keep him. Glennon just got a better deal to start somewhere else. So it was like, hey, man, go get your money, be a starter, do what you want to do. So I don't think it's like a revenge game. I don't really think there's much narrative around that. However, Glennon did look pretty darn good week one. And they took that Falcons team all the way to the last snap of the football
down to the
game.
wire. Down to the wire. I mean, you take a team that just came out of a Super Bowl, and that team is pretty much still the same Super Bowl team, believe it or not. And they played in Chicago. I mean, yeah, I'll give the Bears a credit. I didn't give them enough credit in our last podcast. I'll give them all the credit this time. They gave them a run for their money.
Very surprising and very impressive. I think Glennon's performance was right around replacement level, but good enough to keep them in the game. I feel like the Bucs are fired up. They're well rested off their week one bye, because the NFL believes in week one byes now, apparently. But being so well rested, I can't bet against my home team. Overall, I think the Bucs are going to really surprise people this year with their passing attack. I think they're really due for a very good passing year from Jameis Winston, barring some sort of injury to Mike Evans or Deshaun Jackson. So, I got the Buccaneers in this one all the way.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and agree with you there. While the Bears did put up a very, very good fight against the Falcons, they are bare bones at receiver. They really have no one out there, and they proved it. They kept running the ball, and they were successful running the ball, but you got to be able to pass the ball too. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be exposing that this weekend. I'm going with the Buccaneers. Moving on to the Eagles going up against the Chiefs. This is an interesting game. Two pretty hot teams. I mean, the Eagles, they barely won last week, okay, but they played a good game. They played a really good game. Carson Wentz was perfect QBR, 158.3 on third downs. If you look at just third downs alone, Carson Wentz was 158.3 QBR on third downs against Washington last week. And what I really like about Carson Wentz, he's got that Big Ben playability to him. What I mean by that is he'll look around. He'll go through his first read. That's not there. Cool. He go to his second read. That's not there. Cool. Guess what? This white guy wearing number 11 jersey, he's got some wheels too, and he will take off. He will extend a play with his legs, and you know this Jameis Winston does the same thing. I like the fact that Carson Wentz is able to do that. Defensively, Washington didn't have any one run go over 6 yards. In fact, they held him to Philadelphia defense held Washington to 64 total rushing yards. Now, you saw what happened on Thursday night, as I did and the rest of the world did. You saw Kareem Hunt go absolutely bonkers on a New England defense, getting, what was it, 3 touchdowns? 3 rushing touchdowns, something like that?
Yeah, it was a historically good performance.
It was amazing, and I think they're going to continue that. I'm going to go ahead and say Kansas City, they're going to kill them. This is not even going to be a close game. I'm going Kansas City.
Well, I think this one's going to be close. I don't think anybody's going to be killing anybody. Philadelphia certainly looked good week 1. Carson Wentz, I stand by what I said last week. If we were redrafting the draft from 2 years ago, I think he'd go number 1 overall. He just has that it factor. I think Philly has their quarterback of the future, and really admirable performance last season. Looked really, really good last week in a division rivalry game. But Kansas City, the defense is firing on all cylinders, in my opinion. I think the loss of Eric Berry will hurt them, but it will not hurt them as much as people think. And they've got what you want on offense. They're able to run the ball, and Alex Smith was actually doing, like we talked about last week, getting it to the outside, getting it to playmakers on the outside of the field, especially in Tyreek Hill. I have the Chiefs winning this one.
Do you? Okay, cool. So our picks are pretty much identical right now, bro. Just putting that out there. But I think this next game, it might change a little bit. I'm just saying, not New England, the Minnesota Vikings going into Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. They're both 1-1. Both these teams won last week. Now, Pittsburgh kind of surprised me a little bit. Did I think that they're going to win last week? Yeah, I did. I picked them to win. Did I think it was going to be a 3-point game against the Cleveland Browns? Absolutely not. That surprised me. The fact that they only won by 3 points. I thought it would have been a margin of at least 10. But there's one really, really interesting matchup that I see for this game, the Vikings and Steelers game. And that's a matchup between Xavier Rhodes and Antonio Brown. The reason I say that is because, Antonio Brown, he's one of the best receivers. Hey, I'm a Ravens fan, I'm telling you. He's one of the best receivers in the league right now at contesting a jump ball. If it's up there in the air, he's going to go up and do what any good football coach ever tells you to do, get the ball at its highest point, and he does that at very, very, very well. Now, he's going up against Xavier Rhodes, one of the probably most physical corners in the league. He's going to be pressing him. He's going to be bullying him out there. And I want to see if AB can still be great in the face of adversity. The rest of that defense outside of Xavier Rhodes, absolutely lights out week 1. Killed him. Defense looked amazing. It kind of looked like the Purple People Eaters, if I'm honest. I'm going to say Minnesota goes into Pittsburgh and hands Pittsburgh their first loss. Vikings remain undefeated, 2-0. What do you think?
Ooh, I guess this is where the division begins, my friend.
I knew it.
So I like the Vikings. I think their defense looked very good last week. You could look at the point total and say, hey, they didn't look that good, but it's the New Orleans Saints. It's still a very good offense. They have a very good scheme, a very good quarterback. And Sam Bradford really showed me something last week. Very surprising performance. Biggest question is, can he sustain it? History shows that he usually doesn't. I have questions about the Minnesota Vikings running the ball. And that has nothing to do with the running back. It's more about the O-line. But going into Pittsburgh playing at home, one of the few places where I feel like home field advantage matters, and that Pittsburgh Steelers, looking the rebound from last week, that game with the Browns was way too close, in my opinion. I think they need to run the ball more. That's for sure.
The Steelers do.
Yeah, the Steelers need to run the ball more. You got Le'Veon Bell back there, and I think through the first half he had something like 3 carries. Very atypical of the Steelers' offense.
Agreed.
I think they need to run it more. I think, Le'Veon Bell needs to touch that ball 15, 20 times. They need to use one of their best assets on the field, but I do have them winning this week in a close one. Okay,
cool. So that's where we disagree. Obviously, a case could be made for either side, but I'm sticking with the Vikings. You're going with the Steelers. That's our first divisive pick so far in this game. Moving on, the Cleveland Browns, the 0-1 Cleveland Browns, taking on yours truly, my Baltimore Ravens, which we won 20-0 last week. That Baltimore defense looked amazing. I saw glimmers of the old 2006 Ravens, the 2012 Ravens. That defense looks deadly. I know it's only one game. I'm not going to overreact. But here's the facts. All right. Andy Dalton got taken down 5 times. 4 interceptions. 1 fumble. Cleveland, despite spending so much money to build up that offensive line, still surrendered 7 sacks to the Steelers last week. Okay, that's a pretty damning number. That's way too many sacks to get in one game. And the Browns' defense, not that great. I think losing Joe Hayden was a big loss, and I'll still stand by that. That Cleveland defense managed to allow Antonio Brown to get 182 yards last week. This game is, you hear the term slam dunk thrown around. Oh, like that's my slam dunk pick. This game right here is my slam dunk pick of the week. I'd be really, really shocked if Baltimore doesn't win. I'm taking the Ravens.
Yeah, I really don't have a whole lot to say on this game. The Ravens obviously looked very good last week, firing on all cylinders. Offense looked good. Defense looked good. New players to the team were playing well. I'm a little worried about the injury to Danny Woodhead. I think that's a little concerning to me.
Yeah, that is.
Overall, Ravens looked very good against the division rival, who I think, I have them winning this week. So I have the Bengals winning this week. They're not a bad team. They're not tanking. Browns, Deshaun Kaiser, got to say, surprising performance last week. I kind of wonder if he can sustain it. He looked better than Deshaun Watson, in my opinion.
He did.
But I still got to say, surprised to see him out there this early. But if he keeps performing like he did last week,
he deserves it. Let him keep playing.
You let him work it out. I mean, if he's going to keep playing like he did last week.
That's right.
But Browns played really well. The future is bright in Cleveland. Break out your sunglasses. But I don't have them winning this week. I have the Ravens winning it. And I think that and that all just comes down to experience. There's just too many guys on the Ravens who have been there, know what it's like to prepare for an NFL game and actually go out there and execute. So I have the Ravens this week.
Okay. Good deal. Next, we got the Buffalo Bills. I believe they won last week, right? Yeah, they're 1-0. Taking on the Carolina Panthers, who are also 1-0. They won last week. And this game is going to be played in Carolina. Now, I looked at the power rankings earlier. You know how every week, I think the Tuesday morning following a week of football, the ESPN power rankings come up. The Panthers are ranked 14th overall in that list, and the Bills are 27. The Bills, I believe, last week you said were one of the teams you believe is currently tanking, correct?
No, I think that's the
you said the Jets and the Bears, right?
The Jets and the Bears. I think that they're actively tanking.
Okay. To me, I respect a team that can go on the road and win. The Panthers last week had a cross-country game, and they won 23-3. Quite impressive. And right now, this just comes down to, and I know there's not much to withdraw from week one. Just right now, the Panthers seem like a more impressive team to me right now, as opposed to the Buffalo Bills. I think they got so many weapons on offense and defense. As they've shown last week that they're fully capable of spreading out the ball, and I think they're going to continue to do that. This week, I'm taking the Carolina Panthers to win.
Yes, I agree with you. The Panthers look to be a more dynamic and high-end team this year. I think their power ranking, I don't put much stock in power rankings, but
it's just fun to look at. I don't either.
Yeah.
I think it's just interesting read, if anything.
Oh, it's a very interesting read, but when it comes to the Panthers, they looked really good last week. Defense looks renewed. I think part of that has to do with Luke Kuechly being back. He got hurt last year, and when he got hurt, they definitely showed a decline, if you will. So he's back. He looked really good. He had an interception last week. And, Cam Newton, he's back. The shoulder concerns me. There were a couple easy throws last week that he missed. Specifically, there was one. They were in the red zone, wide open receiver. three guys surrounded Christian McCaffrey, right?
And he threw it to him anyway.
What? I'm sorry?
And he threw it to Christian McCaffrey anyway.
Well, he actually, I'm talking about, it was, I want to say third quarter, and he did go to another receiver, and he overthrew him by about 5 yards. And it would have been a walk-in touchdown right there at the goal line. But what I will say is this. Christian McCaffrey brings such a big dynamic to that offense. At multiple times during that game, they had two defenders keying in on that guy because they're scared of him. And it opened up things down the field for Kelvin Benjamin and their other receivers where they were seeing single coverage looks and just wide open looks. So once Cam Newton's finally back and completely healthy and that shoulder's not an issue, I think they're going to be really dangerous. This week I have them winning it, but that's not taking anything away from their opponent, the Buffalo Bills, who looked very good last week. But I just think the Panthers are just that much better. So I have them winning it in a close one. Okay.
And part of what I was kind of factoring into that is the quality of win. Look at who the Bills beat. They beat the Jets. I mean,
yeah, Jets.
All right, moving on. We got the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis. I usually give a strong bias to the home team, except in this case. Even with David Johnson, which unfortunately he's your first pick draft. I know that sucks for you. Even though he's out for a few months, Andrew Luck is still out. Scott Tolzien proved last week that he plays terrible. He misses wide open passes. He actually had a couple receivers open for that burnt that defense pretty well, and you just would not see them at all. As my boy Bengal would say, open your crusty eyes. He didn't do that at all. The Lions last week, they put up 26 unanswered points against the Cardinals. That's bad. It was tough to see. A defense that's got the Honey Badger and, Pat Pete. It's hard to see that defense not play well. The defense is awful. Let's just not sugarcoat it at all. But at the same time, I don't think they're going to remain awful because they're playing against Scott Tolzien and the failing Indianapolis Colts this week. I'm going with the Cardinals to win.
I'm with you on that. The Cardinals defense, I feel like they got a bad rap last week, and I get it. But, there were a couple miscues on defense on big plays. I don't think that happens again. There were also a lot of situations where that defense was out on the field unnecessarily due to turnovers. And Carson Palmer really needs to get that in check. I think that's a big key for the Arizona Cardinals this week. I think the defense is there. I think that the quarterback needs to not turn it over so much. There were some interceptions thrown last week that I was trying to figure out what Carson Palmer was thinking. Now, when it comes to the Colts, we talked about it last week. We said that Scott Tolzien is not an NFL starter. He had a QBR last week of 6.3. It's unbelievable. Last year, his QBR was 28. So he's getting worse, not getting better.
I like the way you said that last week, too. You said he had 6 points better than a dead body.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at with Scott Tolzien. And I have to say, it was, I believe, the third or the fourth quarter of their game last week against the Rams where one of his receivers actually committed a face mask penalty on a cornerback. And had he not done that, it would have been a third pick six in that game. So Scott Tolzien, Jacoby Brissett, I don't care who starts. Until the Colts get Andrew Luck back, they're not winning a single football game this year. That's it. So I've got to go with the Cardinals here. The Cardinals could put their backup out, and they'd still win this game.
You know what? I am 100% behind you on that one. I will continue to pick against the Colts for every week that Andrew Luck is out. I agree 100% with what you just said. They cannot win a game without him. And quite frankly, I don't know, even with him, if they can beat some of these guys that are on the schedule this week. They got a very, very difficult schedule coming up. Moving on to the Tennessee Titans going against Jacksonville Jaguars, a relief area where, the city of Jacksonville, as you may know, Alex, that they've been hit very, very hard by these hurricanes that have come in. I actually read a blurb on the news this morning, which I wanted to mention here on the podcast. Jacksonville Mayor Lenny Curry, he was quoted saying this. I had to rewind to make sure I had it down exactly the way he said it. He said, "This is not simply about football." When he was asked about this game that's coming up this weekend, he said, "This is about more than that. It's about bringing our city and community together. It's about getting back to normal operations." This crowd, I believe, is going to be on fire. The people that are going to be at this game, they're going to be like amazingly supportive of the team. It's going to be all eyes on Jacksonville this week, I believe, in my opinion. As it would never happen any other week except this week. Jacksonville secondary dominated last week. Leonard Fournette looked the part. You know, he proved to everyone why he was drafted as high as he was. Blake Bortles, he managed the game. You know, no mistakes from him. I liked it. Now, unfortunately, Allen Robinson, he suffered a career-ending ACL tear, which really sucks. But all that means is next man up. That's what the NFL will always be about. So guys like Marquise Lee, Aurelius Ben, Alan Hearns, these are guys that really need to step up and impose their presence in that passing attack. Fun fact, last time we saw these two teams play each other was on Christmas Eve last year. I think it was week 15. And the Jags won 38-17. There's just way too much right now for me to not pick the Jaguars. I'm going with the Jaguars.
I got to say, I'm shocked to hear that. I did not expect you to pick the Jaguars here. I thought we were going to disagree on this one. The Titans looked okay last week. I don't know that they look as good as people were anticipating. I still think they're going to be a very good football team, but I don't think they're a playoff team. They got 8-8 written all over them, in my opinion. But when it comes to the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think this was a team last year that a lot of us were picking to go to the playoffs. Last week's performance really showed me something. And Blake Bortles might just be good enough at quarterback to get the job done here. And that's a testament to their running game. Because with Leonard Fournette and Chris Ivory, they were able to spell Leonard Fournette, keep him fresh, and he was really tearing it up out there. I mean, Fournette really made an instant impact. So he brought some really dynamic running and even chipped in a little bit in the passing game. And then here comes Chris Ivory to spell him and keep him fresh. I think that's really important for a running back like Fournette that comes out of college with a lot of wear on those tires.
You know what? Chris Ivory isn't really chopped liver. You know, this is a guy in his own right. He can be a starting running back, but the fact that they got him and Leonard Fournette, that's pretty amazing. It's a dual attack. It's quite awesome to see.
It's scary. So if they can maintain a lead and have defense play as well as they did last week, it's a sneaky good team. It's a team that can really sneak up on people because there's that stigma. I can't say enough about the city of Jacksonville. I know a lot of family that's from that area, born and raised there. So I think Jacksonville is a phenomenal town. And if you follow my YouTube channel, you know I am a huge fan of the city, and I try to go up there at least once a year because it's a phenomenal city. It's a great place to watch an NFL football game, and tickets are usually pretty cheap too because they have a hard time getting people to fill up the stadium. So I got the Jaguars winning this one, and it's a really huge moral victory. So I'm rooting for them for two reasons. One, they're my pick this week, but two, I think the city of Jacksonville could really use just a little bit of a moral victory.
And it'll be a mental relief to them, too, because there's so much they're dealing with right now. A victory here would mean the world to them, I believe.
Yeah, so. Jacksonville, I mean, I think it's a good distraction, and I'm glad they're playing this week because it's also one of the best places to tailgate. So exactly. It's an event. Every Sunday they have an NFL game there. It's an event. Those 8 Sundays, they're 7 because they send one to London, but it's always a huge event.
Okay, sounds good, man. We got the Jets. The 0-1 Jets taking on the 1-0 Oakland Raiders. Hey, try to hold in your laughter on this one.
Okay.
The Raiders, think about this number, okay? This is a crazy number. The Raiders right now, according to Vegas Insider, are a 14-point favorite to win this game. So hey, that's better than the Ravens taking on the Cleveland Browns, a game that I saw as a definite, slam dunk game. But apparently Vegas thinks that for this week, it's the Raiders taking on the Jets. Khalil Mack has proven himself at this point to be the most, not one of the best, the best and most dominant pass rusher in the league right now. That Jets offensive line, rest in peace to you guys. I would not want to be you going up against Khalil Mack this week. While Khalil Mack didn't generate a single sack last week, he did have, what do you call those? Those things that don't really, intangibles, things that don't really register on the stat sheet, but you can see them happening, like the fact that he forced the quarterback to run and hurry 5 times, and just overall was a very, very disruptive force in that line, in that D-line. As opposed to the Jets, last week they looked very, very sloppy, and quite frankly, so did their offense. And Derek Carr this week, taking on the Jets, he's going to be going up against, aside from Morris Claiborne, which all due respect to him, he's a great cornerback. But aside from Morris Claiborne, Derek Carr is going up against a rookie, pretty much an all-rookie secondary, which will be really interesting to see how they respond to a great quarterback like Derek Carr coming in there and winning. Actually, Derek Carr's playing at home because Oakland's playing at home. And also keep your eyes on Amari Cooper and Crabtree. They're going to be feasting out there. If you got them in fantasy, those are 2 guys to start for sure this week because that defensive secondary for the Jets ain't stopping anything. I'm going with the Raiders by a big margin here.
Yeah, so if you're an Oakland Raider on offense, tell your mom to get the camera because it's going to be a highlight week for you. You're going to be able to make all kinds of big plays on that defense that the New York team is trotting out there. I just, this is blatant tanking. I could see this team going 0-16. They're just that bad.
This is 2 weeks in a row now. You're saying the Jets are tanking. Are you going to ride this out?
Blatantly tanking. This is blatant tanking. The league needs to investigate, who puts together a roster like this. And I feel bad for Jets fans because, they didn't ask for this. And, teams do this every once in a while. They put together this shell of a team. They barely meet the NFL salary cap minimum. It's not a good squad. Josh McCown looks exactly like he did in Tampa Bay 3 years ago.
3 years,
okay, he'll have a decent completion percentage. He had 66.7 last week, but he only threw for 187 yards, and he threw 2 picks. It's a bad football team versus a team looking to win their division. So I have the Raiders going over big. I don't know that they'll cover the spread. They'll probably, start running the ball later on in the game. I think Vegas is just hedging their bet, because betting against the New York Tanks is just such a great bet. So I got the Raiders winning this one. I don't know that they'll cover the spread, but Jets fans, I'm sorry. Write the owner of the Jets and tell him, please stop tanking. Just put somebody out on the field. You can still go 4-12 and get a good draft pick. You don't have to go 0-16.
The New York Tanks. I like that. That's got a good ring to it. Now, you guys, last week it was the Tampa Bay and Dolphins game that got, canceled because of the hurricanes and all the storms and everything. Well, here we go. Miami Dolphins coming off their week 1 bye. Yes, week 1 bye. Very, very strong to start off the season. Sorry to all the Buccaneers and Dolphins fans out there. It sucks to have a week 1 bye. I'm sorry that has to happen to you. But this week will be the debut of the LA Chargers, who moved back to Los Angeles after 56 years. This game will actually be played in a 30,000-seat stadium that was actually built for the LA Galaxy, a Major League Soccer team. So there's not going to be many people out there watching the game. I'm sure they're going to fill all 30,000 seats, but you're talking about less than half of the size of a regular NFL stadium. That's not much at all. And actually, despite the Chargers losing last week against the Denver Broncos, they actually played a very good game. I liked what I saw from Melvin Gordon. He looked really, really good. And I think that they're going to win. They're going to win at home in front of those 30,000 fans. I'm going with the Chargers.
Yeah, my condolences to San Diego fans. I was not a fan of this move to LA, and I think that the building that they're playing in is going to look weird. It's going to be one of the strangest situations we've ever seen in football in terms of a team playing in a soccer stadium. There's still tickets available. I don't think they're going to sell out. I also think that the novelty of the NFL is going to wear out in LA, and they're really only able to support one team, not two. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now about relocating teams. I do have them winning this game just because the Dolphins are traveling to the West Coast. I'm not really high on the Dolphins in general. I think Cutler will be a good replacement for Ryan Tannehill. I still think that they lose something by not having Ryan Tannehill. And I really like the Chargers this year. I think Phillip Rivers is due for another good year. He has his favorite weapon back in Keenan Allen. They did not miss a beat at all. Keenan Allen had a very good performance week one, a very solid performance. I would expect that to continue. And then there's also Melvin Gordon. So I got the Chargers winning this one. I think it'll be close, and I think it's going to look really weird on TV. I can't wait to see that. It's going to look really strange, but I got the Chargers in this one.
Okay. Have you gotten used to calling them the LA Chargers yet, or not yet?
I certainly haven't, and neither have the NFL refs because one of them got on the mic last week and called them the San Diego Chargers.
San Diego.
Still, so.
Yeah, I think I saw that in a segment of ESPN's Come On Man, which are always hilarious.
Never should have moved. Never should have moved.
Yeah. And they lost a lot of fans in the process by doing that, because I'm friends with a lot of Chargers fans out here in Las Vegas, former Chargers fans, and they said, they felt like the team did them wrong, and that they're moving their allegiance to another team. I don't know who that's going to be, but with the Raiders now coming into Vegas in 2020, I'm assuming they're going to become Raiders fans. Oh, that'd be cool if they became Ravens fans. Anyway, 49ers, the 0-1 49ers going into Seattle. The 0-1 Seattle Seahawks, which, again, we talked about the quality of win and the quality of losses. Last week, the Seahawks, the quality of their loss against Green Bay, to me, that's as good as a win, in my opinion. As opposed to Brian Hoyer last week, no touchdowns, 1 interception, less than 200 yards. Seattle is downright better at all 3 phases of the game. Defense, offense, special teams. They got it. And actually, it doesn't help the 49ers, the fact that the Seahawks are playing at home. And, that stadium is so good at generating, not only it funnels sound, but they actually generate, not hurricanes. They generate earthquakes at almost every home game. So there's going to be an earthquake that the 49ers are going to feel for weeks. I'm taking the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah,
I don't know really what to say other than what you already said. 49ers looked really bad in a loss to what I would consider to be an above-average team. Seahawks looked really good in a loss. I believe they held the Green Bay Packers to 0 points in the first half last week. I know it was either they held them to 0 or it was really close. And I thought they might win that game last week against what I think is a very good football team. So I got the Seahawks here. I think this one has the potential to get very ugly very quickly. So Seahawks all the way, man.
Okay, we're both on the Seahawks. And actually, looking at the picks so far, you and I don't disagree on much this week, which is kind of spooky if you ask me. We got the Redskins taking on the LA Rams, which I'm now getting used to calling them the LA Rams now. So they're taking on the LA Rams in LA this week. Kirk Cousins didn't play the best game last week against the Eagles, and actually his pass style kind of bugs me. He's good at these little check down passes, but he was 0 for 6. 0 for 6 for any pass that was over 20 yards. We made mention of this last week. He lost both of his starting wideouts, 2 of his favorite targets to free agency. However, the Rams' running game has me quite worried. Todd Gurley played one of the worst defenses in the league last week, in the Indianapolis Colts. One of the worst defenses in the league, and he still only managed to get 2.1 yards per carry. I think, and I don't want to overreact here, but I think the Todd Gurley hype train has finally come to a stop. I don't think, if you can't perform against the worst defenses, what are you going to do once you get the top dogs coming in there playing defense? That's tough. Now, I want to say also that Jared Goff played an amazing game. He put the ball, he fit into tight windows. He thrown to the sideline, thrown up the seam. He was connecting with all his targets. He looked very, very brilliant out there. And also, hey, guess who just ended his holdout? Aaron Donald. He's coming back this week. I'm taking on the LA Rams this week to win.
Yeah, the Redskins last week looked really rough on offense. I talked about it a little bit last week, but losing those two top wide receivers, I think big loss. They couldn't run the ball either, not as effectively as I think they would have liked to. So they got really one-dimensional real fast, and there were a couple passes that Kirk Cousins threw down the field where you could tell he wasn't on the same page with the receivers. I expect that to continue. Rams looked really good, aside from the run game, which struggled a little bit. Jared Goff really impressed me. I'm hoping, with all the assets that they put into drafting this kid, that he really is their quarterback of the future. Otherwise, it could be significantly problematic for them, much like the Redskins not too recently, who put a lot of assets into drafting Robert Griffin III and only got bailed out by drafting Kirk Cousins in, I believe, the 3rd round. But still, they lost a lot of draft picks getting RG3. Rams have the potential to have the same result, but Jared Goff looked like the real deal last week.
He did,
I think
absolutely.
They will. I think their defense will come out and have another really good showing against the Redskins, and I have them winning this one.
Okay. You mentioned defenses. And going up to our next game, Dallas Cowboys going into Denver to take on the Broncos. I think Broncos right now has one of the best secondaries in the league. In fact, one of the best trios of corners in the league. The question, though, is can they stop Ezekiel Elliott, which, if you didn't hear by now, Ezekiel Elliott is pretty much going to be allowed to play the whole season. Pretty much. You know, the NFL hasn't come out and said it directly, but that's what it's looking like. Ezekiel Elliott's going to play the whole season. With that being said, can the Broncos defense stop Ezekiel Elliott? That's one thing that I'll be watching in this primetime game. Also, Cole Beasley, he's turning out to be the best slot receiver in the game. No offense to Julian Edelman. Hopefully he recovers in due time. But Cole Beasley looks amazing. Really good as a slot receiver. And Trevor Siemian played reasonably well on Monday Night Football versus the Chargers. He didn't really make any big, bozo mistakes or anything, but he looked okay. He looked okay. This is a tough game for me to pick because I'm torn. I don't know which way to go. I can make a case for the Cowboys going in there and winning, but I can also make a case for the Broncos. It's so close in this game that the only thing that's kind of nudging me in one direction is the Broncos, only for the fact that they're playing at home. That's why. I'm taking them at Mile High.
I appreciate your analysis, but I got to say, Cowboys looked really good last week, and they impressed me. And shout out to Glocks, by the way, who openly called me out for predicting that they would win last week, in part to having Ezekiel Elliott back and playing. Real quick side rant, just going to say it. How do you suspend a guy when he never got convicted of anything? I just don't get it. But anyway, that's the NFL. True. So he did win that injunction. He's going to be playing for the foreseeable future. And while he's playing, I mean, I got to be honest, if he's playing, I don't see why they wouldn't replicate last year's success, go something like 12-4 or 11-5. Yep. I have them winning this one. I think it's going to be close. It's going to be a really entertaining game to watch. But I do have the Cowboys winning this one.
You got the Cowboys. Okay. So that's one of the few games that we disagree on this week. All right, 2 more games. We've got the Sunday night game and the Monday night game. This week we only get one Monday night game. So Sunday night game, Green Bay Packers going into Atlanta and taking on the Atlanta Falcons, which I believe both these two teams are 1-0. They are. They both won last week. So someone's going to get their first loss this week. It's 2 great MVP quarterbacks. I know I've said whatever I've said before about the what do you call it, the Falcons quarterback. I just don't think a lot of Matt Ryan. But the fact is he was named the offensive league MVP, and Aaron Rodgers has plenty MVP ratings. And they both these quarterbacks have a ton of weapons on offense, ton of them. Atlanta has a bunch of them. Green Bay, They can do it on the ground and in the air. The only reason I actually go with Green Bay in this one is because I feel like Green Bay can generate a stronger presence on the rushing attack as opposed to the Falcons. Again, this is only based off of Week 1 stats. I'm going to go with the Packers in this one to win on Sunday Night Football going into Atlanta.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think this is going... I'm glad this game is prime time so that everybody can watch it, because I think it's going to be one of the most entertaining matchups of the week. Yep. I think it's going to be an offensive slugfest. You've got two really good offenses, two really good quarterbacks. I mean, what more could you ask for? This just has great ratings written all over it.
It's got all the makings of any good Sunday Night Football game. I agree, 100%.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, for the first couple of years that they rolled out Sunday Night Football, especially in the early 2000s, it would be some really big afterthoughts in terms of matchups. But lately, they've been getting these primetime games to where they're intriguing matchups that people want to watch. I have the Packers in this one solely because I think quarterback play is going to be the difference. And Aaron Rodgers right now, I know this is going to be controversial, best quarterback in the league
man.
now.
There it is.
Best quarterback in the league right now.
Okay. Taking a little bit of a shot at Tom Brady, I see. That's okay, though. That's okay.
He's not the best right now.
Okay. Hey, I mean...
Last week proved it.
That is true. That is true. That is a game that Aaron Rodgers would have won, given the situation. Final game for Week 2, Monday Night Football. The Detroit Lions going into New York and taking on the Giants. The 1-0 versus 0-1 Giants, by the way, a team that I thought that last week was going to be able to handle the Cowboys, but unfortunately the Giants lost. Giants... so far have probably one of the worst running attacks in the game. Their rushing game sucks. Paul Perkins last week only got 16 yards and 7 carries. Orleans Darkwa 14 yards on 3 carries. Those aren't stats to be proud of. Now the big elephant in the room here for this game is the status of Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham Jr. Will he or will he not play? As of right now, he looks to be. The team hasn't really made any announcements. It sounds like he's still going to be out. I'm thinking that if he does show up, and I believe that OBJ will show up for this game and play, I think the Giants will win. And also, there's going to be a real test here to see how the New York Giants secondary handles Matthew Stafford. He's not chopped liver. Matthew Stafford is probably one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. They absolutely torched Arizona last week. 12 of 16, 180 yards, 3 touchdowns. Again, I had a lot of respect for that Cardinals defense. They got a lot of big names out there. But they got diced and sliced by Matthew Stafford. I'm going with the Giants here. Win at home on Monday Night Football.
So, I look at this game. I think it's going to be a good one. It's going to be another exciting one to watch.
Okay.
Detroit last week showed me something, and I picked against them, and I instantly regretted it. By the second quarter, I was like, I made the wrong pick here. Defense looked really, really solid. They were running the ball. They were passing the ball effectively. Matt Stafford, absolutely 100% top 5 QB in the league right now. You could probably make a case for top 3. He's just that darn good.
He is.
And I can't bet against him when New York came out and almost got shut out last week against a team that, yeah, it's a good team, but I don't care if they have Odell. I don't care if they got Jerry Rice. I don't care if they got Randy Moss in the slot. I'm taking the Lions to win this one. It's the Lions all the way.
Okay. So I believe I counted 3 games where you and I disagreed this week. It ought to be interesting. For those of you guys who didn't catch last week's podcast, me and Alex, a.k.a. PurpleSwordfish, my co-host, we have a running bet going on. At the end of the year, we're going to tally up all our wins and losses, and whoever has the most correctly picked wins, the loser of that matchup has to wear... So here's the thing. If Alex loses, right, he's going to have to wear a Ravens cap. He's got to wear a Ravens jersey, fully decked out in Ravens gear. Same thing for me. If I lose to him, I got to wear Buccaneers clothing, through and through. Yeah, if they have, maybe I'll even get a Buccaneers banner. Go down to the nines on everything. But we have reached a portion of our show now where we're going to start opening up the mic to call-ins. So if you're in our Discord, all you got to do is go to the Discord section where it says NFL Talk Live Show call-ins, and we're going to start pulling people in. And I believe we still have someone waiting right now to get in, actually been waiting a while. None other than V. Pierre, a guy that actually, believe it or not, went to high school with. What's going on, man?
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Can't complain.
So what do you have to say?
I just want to say happy birthday.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. The big 30, turning big 30.
I know,
So
right?
for those of you guys who don't know, the caller right now, he's a really, really big Chicago Bears fan. I'm assuming he's going to say something about them.
Yes, I am. I'm upset at myself because I didn't start Tariq in fantasy football, and I started Kevin White as my flex. And I'm really mad because he lost me the game.
Yeah, Kevin White. Let's talk about that for a second. What a big loss that is to the Bears team. He in very many regards is like the Brashad Perriman of the Baltimore Ravens, because you don't know what you get out of him. He's in a couple seconds and he's gone for a whole year, And fortunately, that's not going to be the case this year with Brashad Perriman. Hopefully, he plays a whole season. But how do you feel about that, Alex?
Kevin White's already on the injured reserve.
I know. He's gone for the year. So, I mean, is he going to do this next year? I mean, is the team going to keep him around?
No, they won't. I mean, just to be honest, and no offense, if you ever watch this, Kevin White, I really hope you get healthy, but he's the new Yatil Green. He reminds me so much of Yatil Green, who got drafted by Miami, had all the tools, man, just lightning fast, had the size, should have been a #1 wide receiver in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But he tore an ACL 2 years in a row. He just never got healthy, and it just never worked out for him. It's one of the most heartbreaking things to watch because Kevin White, I think he can do it. He has all the will, he has all the skill, but just can't stay healthy. It stinks.
It does. It does. Thank you again, Vlad, for tuning into the show. I appreciate you. Anything else you want to say?
No, that's it. I mean, he's
I don't think we
come
lost
back
him.
for next year to care.
You still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now. What'd you say?
Yeah, I said I don't have much to say. I guess. Do I think Kevin White's coming back next year? I don't think so, because why come back? They're not going to pick up his fifth-year option. Mm-hmm. And next year, probably, not that I'm wishing this on him, but his next injury will be tearing an ACL.
Ooh. Well, let's hope not, right? Let's hope not.
Let's hope not, but, you get injured every year. That's going to happen. I mean.
And, I understand as a Bears fan, I understand, it sucks to not be able to rely on these people to show up, for them to just go out with an injury. It sucks, right? No, there's no winners there for anybody. Not for the player, not for the fans, not for the organization, nowhere. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, anyway, appreciate you for calling in, man. Thank you.
Thanks. No problem. You have a good one.
You too.
Thanks, Vlad.
Next up, we have a familiar face. He's known as Sergeant Kicker, a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I'd imagine he'd want to chime in. What's going on?
Yeah, I think last week the Steelers not running Bell as much as they usually do is kind of a way of sending him a message for skipping out on all the training camp and the whole contract thing. Is when have you ever known the Steelers not to use their run game officially? They've always been a ground and pounds.
You're saying that this is a slap on the wrist as a form of punishment to Le'Veon.
I think it's just a way of saying we can win without you. But we don't necessarily need you to win. We have enough weapons where we can win without you against teams like the Browns. The Browns are garbage anyway, but
It's any given Sunday, though. The Browns have a solid chance to win any week, but the fact is that offensive line, like I mentioned earlier, was terrible. The fact that you guys got to the quarterback 7 times that game, disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
TJ Watt made me proud. two sacks and an interception. It's a good showing for his first regular season game.
It is. It really is.
He's one of 3 players to ever do it.
Yeah, one of 3 players to ever do it, and he's looking a lot like his brother. Let me just say that he's looking a lot like JJ out there.
Hey, I was stoked. You saw the picture of my girls.
I saw that. Sergeant Kicker tweeted out like one of the most beautiful pictures you'll ever see, and this is me saying this as a Ravens fan. It's his 3 kids and decked out in Steelers gear. I'm like, wow, man, that's a father training up a kid in the way that he should be raised. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. So
yeah. On the other hand, the Giants, I think, if they can't get Odell Beckham in the game, they've proven they can't do anything. Because they did next to nothing on offense in that game.
I was shocked that the Giants played as poorly as they did, but I think that they're a team that'll bounce back. I think they have a lot of competence in their front office and their coaching staff that they're not going to let the same bad habits continue. They're going to address them, and they're going to correct them. And I think that's why I picked them this week to win on Monday Night Football.
What else is I going to say? Oh, I think you might be surprised with the Browns.
You think so? This week against the Ravens, or what? In what regard?
Cannot be as bad as they were last year. They just can't. If they are, then they're going to be at risk of losing some of their management staff. That's the way I see it.
That happens every year, though, so it's nothing new to the team.
The Browns, in my opinion, the Browns need a new GM.
I tend to agree with you.
Entire management.
No,
I would tend to agree with you.
I got to disagree with you there, respectfully, because the problem that the Browns have had is they've had no continuity in their front office. And every 2 years, a new guy comes in because their owner gets impatient. New guy comes in and gets rid of all the guys that they drafted, goes in a totally different direction. They have to draft all new guys that don't fit the scheme. I like their draft this year. They looked really good last week. And these are this new starting quarterback who's a rookie, several starters on defense, Myles Garrett, Peppers. Those kids are only going to get better. I could see them being like the Bucs, where they had 1 year where all the young kids, they had to learn, and then 2 years in, they're almost in the playoffs. I know they're in a tougher division, but I think the future's bright in Cleveland. I wouldn't swap out that GM just yet. I want him to do another couple drafts for him.
Okay, so you're still
my biggest gripe is that everybody was putting so much faith into their number 1 pick that was
Myles Garrett.
Yeah, and everyone's saying he's going to sack Ben 2-3 times.
Mm-hmm.
They can get 1.
Not even 1. I know.
Not a single 1.
Well, there's a difference between how a player looks on paper versus how he looks on the actual field. It's 2 different ball games completely. So, but give him a break. It's his first meaningful NFL game. I have faith that Myles Garrett was going to play a little bit better than that.
Their offensive line looked okay for as fresh as they are for that team. They're going up against one of the better front sevens in my opinion.
Did he even play?
The Steelers have
Did Myles Garrett even play? He didn't play.
Garrett didn't play. He was out with an ankle injury, and I'm not saying that he would have lit the world on fire, but I do think that he does bring a pass rushing dynamic that they haven't had in Cleveland, and I think that'll help him.
Exactly. Let's not say he's trash, but he's going to be a very much needed addition to that defensive line. So, we'll see.
I didn't get to actually watch the game. I watched highlights because it's out of market for me. Did they get a new? They didn't get a new head coach this year, did they?
The Cleveland Browns.
They still got Hugh Jackson.
Brand new head coaches. I didn't know if they were one of them.
No, they still got Hugh Jackson, and that's a good person, I think, to man the helm there in Cleveland. He did a great job in Oakland, and he didn't get his credit in Oakland for the job that he did there. So, Hugh Jackson, Cleveland, they're sticking with him, which is a credit to their ownership for having
They are.
patience.
They have a lot of faith in him. Absolutely.
Yeah, and they haven't had that faith previously in coaches, and kudos to them for finally realizing, let's give a guy a couple of years to do the job.
Yep.
And then if it doesn't work out, then maybe, hey, we make a change. But yeah, I think Hugh Jackson's doing a great job there in Cleveland, getting those guys motivated every single week, despite the win-loss record.
Yep.
Well, I mean, back to the Steelers and Vikings game. I don't think the Vikings are going to have it as easy a time with the Steelers as they did with the Saints, because the Saints had a terrible defense in that game. They're just atrocious.
The Saints did have a terrible defense, and that's probably why it made some of those defenders on the Vikings shine a little bit more than they probably need to. But Xavier Rhodes, Antonio Brown's going to have his hands full with him this week.
Oh, I'm no doubt, but you still have Martavis Bryant. You're going to have Le'Veon Bell. You're going to have Connor. You're going to have Jesse James.
Yeah, I know. It's a matter of whether or not they can spread the ball around on that defense. We'll see.
But at the same time, the Saints really mishandled using Adrian Peterson, I think.
They did.
Every
what do you have, like
time
16 yards?
He ran. And
yeah, what do you have, like 16 yards? 16 yards,
but
right?
he only got like 9, I think he got like 9 carries or something like that in
the
first half.
That's terrible.
And then the one time they tried to throw to him, Breeze just ended up having to throw it away.
Yep.
I mean, you could see Adrian Peterson was very angry.
It's called bluffing, Saints. Do it more often. You can't just put Adrian Peterson on the field and then use him every single time. You got to put him out there as a decoy sometimes, Make the defense play honest.
I want to see Adrian Peterson get fed up with the Saints, and the Giants make a call to Adrian Peterson and try to get him on a train.
It's not going to happen. I know the Giants were one of his.
The Giants get a running game going, because if they get a running game going, they're going to be scary.
I know the Giants were at some point one of his hopeful destinations, but no, it's not going to happen. I don't think. But anyway, appreciate you calling in, man.
I got one more thing before I get off here.
Yeah, go ahead.
The thing he said about Ezekiel Elliott, he shouldn't be suspended for something he's not convicted of.
He wasn't convicted.
And he got suspended. He wasn't convicted of rape. He still got suspended.
Well, I mean, on the law enforcement side, all charges were dropped. He was not found for any kind of wrongdoing.
On the civil side, it was, what do they call it? It was, I can't think of the name of it. They gave up on the trial because they didn't. They gave up on the case because they didn't want it to have any more headway than it already did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They settled because they didn't want to hear about it.
And when you say it that way, it makes sense why it ended the way it did.
So that's the way I feel about it. I don't even know if nobody knows what happens except for the 2 people that were involved.
That's true.
Same thing with Ezekiel Elliott. There's no evidence either way that proves that anything happened except for what they say.
Exactly. So I'm willing to be okay with it. Hey, he's my running back in fantasy. I'm okay with him playing the whole season. Believe me.
Yeah, I still got Bell.
Nice. All right, bro. Thank you for calling in.
All right, man. Yep.
Thank you. See you. All right, Alex. I think we're gonna call it, bro. If you guys haven't done so already, all the information for my co-host Alex, aka Purple Swordfish, is down below. His Twitter, his YouTube channel. Make sure you go support him and let him know that you came from the NFL Talk Live. Leave a little comment in one of his videos or something. Be like, hey, I'm from the podcast. For those of you guys that weren't able to watch this live, don't worry, we got you. This archive is going to be posted on Twitter as a link to both the YouTube archive as well as a SoundCloud audio log. So SoundCloud and YouTube archive will be coming later tonight. Alex, you have anything else you want to say, bro?
No, man. That's it. Good show.
That's it. All right, bro. We shall see you next week for week 3 of NFL Talk Live. Thank you all for coming out. I appreciate you, and have a good week.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of NFL Talk. Thanks Thanks so much for listening to this episode of NFL Talk Live with Reigning Ravens 1 and Alex, aka PurpleSwordfish, streaming weekly on the YouTube channel Reigning Ravens 1 with all the audio archives on SoundCloud. Follow Reigning Ravens 1 on Twitter at Reigning Ravens 1 and follow Alex on Twitter at Swordfish Show. If you'd like to be part of the live call-in on the next episode, make sure to join the Discord server. This podcast is sponsored by Jerky XP. Save money on your order at the checkout by using the code RR1. We'll catch you next time on NFL Talk Live.